Now, I'm sure many of our visitors would agree and swear on the importance of the knowledge they get from books. Books are the foundations of growth of ideas, leadership, and society. They preserve knowledge, they capture lived experience, and enable learning across generations. In a rapidly changing world, books provide depth, context, and reflection, helping readers move beyond information to insight. And next, we have one such book for you, which is The Groundbreaker. And for this conversation, I would like to invite on stage our founder of TiE Global, pioneers of venture capital, Mr. AJ Patel, and the author, who was the first Indian founder and CEO to take venture-backed company public on the NASDAQ. He co-founded and built the Indus Entrepreneurs into the largest global network of Indian entrepreneurs and is a managing partner at Inventus Capital Partners and Silicon Valley Quad. He came to the United States from India for graduate studies, advanced through the engineering ranks in a number of technology companies, and then co-founded Exelan in Silicon Valley to commercialize Ethernet and TCP IP standards, which became the basis of the internet. So I think we are really, really thankful to platforms like this where we get to hear personalities who have made us proud. Taking the first venture-backed company public on NASDAQ is no small feat. It is absolutely historical. Please welcome our author, Mr. Kanwal Rekhi, sir, on stage, along with Mr. AJ Patel, for a conversation and the book launch on The Groundbreaker. I would also be requesting Mr. AJ Patel to present a memento on behalf of the Rajasthan DigiFest and the 10th TiE Global Summit to Mr. Kanwal Rekhi. Thank you, Mr. Rekhi, sir. He has traveled all the way across the 7 seas for this, everybody. Let's make this moment worth it. And we really, really look forward to hearing you today, sir.
So, you know, when I was first asked to introduce Kanwal on stage about the book launch, I said, God, I am so uneducated. What the heck am I going to talk about books about? But before we get into that, if it wasn't for Kanwal and Suhas joining me, we all would not be here today. TiE's success has been largely to the energy that has been spent by Kanwal and Suhas. Now, if I am going to talk about a book, and especially having known Kanwal for the number of years I have, when I read the book, I realized how much I didn't know. And that's when I realized that, you know what? This society has created for us roles. So when we are, as an employer with our employees, there's a certain behavioral pattern, and that's what we display. When you are at home and a father to your kids, there is a certain role you're playing. When you're a friend, you're a certain role you're playing. So it's like each window. And there are parts of Kanwal's window that I had no idea about. And I think what Kanwal has done, By writing this book, he has combined all for people like us who know him and people who have heard of him and read about him and his work to get a complete picture instead of the little bit of acting that we do. So with that, I'll start out with Kanwal with the very first thing. By the way, for 33 years we have been doing this on stage. And last time we were on stage opening a chapter was the African chapter in Nairobi. Okay, before that we have done emptying chapters and we traveled together quite a bit, sharing plane rides, staying in the same hotels. So Kanwal, until I heard you speak at Anne's memorial, I had absolutely no idea. I mean, here we are, for example, in Boston at Desh Deshpande's house for dinner when we were talking about launching TiE Boston. We come back to our hotel, we have a drink, and we sit down. And Kanwal is telling me about his life at Novel and how he used to take a red-eye flight at midnight from San Jose and fly in to reach Boston in the morning, make his calls, do his work, and by the evening flight he was going back to San Jose. But never once did I realize, looking at him and his energy, of what he was going through at home and the struggles that he was going through. Kanwal, how did you manage to keep such, I mean, you were so focused and precise in everything you were doing when I was around you that I had not the faintest idea. How did you manage that?
I don't know. You have to learn to compartmentalize your activities, right? The work is work, and the home is home, and friends are friend. I was pretty good at that. By the way, my home life was very good. I was married to Anne, my wife, for 54 years. She had some issues with respect to depression that I mentioned at the memorial. But depression is not a permanent thing. It comes and goes, right? And she was a wonderful person. Coming back to managing your life, every thing you do in life, you have to give your 100%. At job, at business, at home, being parent, you have to give your 100%. I as a person have never believed in dabbling or doing less than my best, in anything I do. So, by the way, coming back to TiE, even when you're doing the non-profit things like TiE or anything else, you have to give your 100%. And that's what I was doing. We traveled to Boston, to launch the chapter. I traveled all the time, when I was at Novel. I did a calculation one day. During my working days at Novel, I traveled 1,000 miles every day of my working day.
So, Kanwal, in the book you also write about how, at times, not only your bosses, but even your family doubted whether you were going to make it or not. Okay? And in that environment, what was giving you the confidence to say, I am going to do it and keep on dreaming big?
Yeah. Well, so there was nothing in my background which would have reassured people that I was going to make it. I mean, I had self-doubts myself. But on the other hand, when I looked at the other people who were doing it, I said, why not me? Why can't I be the one who will do it? So, there were doubts. My wife had doubts. My father had, everybody else had doubts about me. And I had doubts about myself. But I was very focused on making it happen. You always need a little bit of luck in life. There was an opportunity, that I grabbed, and there was a little bit of luck involved, lots of hard work involved, and that's life, right? That's life. You haven't made it. You haven't made it until you have made it, and to start celebrating any sooner just doesn't make sense. So you have to wait it, put your nose to the grindstone, make it happen, and then there's time enough to celebrate.
So also, Kanwal, in your book, you have written about being laid off 3 times. By the way, I was fortunate I was only laid off once. But you said you were laid off 3 times. Did it, the first question is, did the third time feel any different than the first time? What was the effect of those layoffs on you?
So 1970, I got my job in 1969 summer. In 1970 March, I got laid off. 1970 was the year, we had put a man on the moon in 1969, and there was no follow-up program for NASA. So NASA was a big employer of engineers. NASA and its contractors and subcontractors were big employers. So, so they were starting to lay off people because they were, no more NASA work after the moonshot. Mini computer industry, was consolidating. Vietnam War was winding down, and people were turning bad. So 1970 was a very, very bad year, and I got laid off, because the company I was working for lost out in the marketplace to digital and what's the other company here? Anand Jagannathan worked for Data General, and it hurt, but I was only 24, 25 years old. Life goes on, right? But second time, same thing. I worked for a computer company which was supplying to NASA, and NASA was not buying anymore, so I got laid off second time. I heard a little bit more because by that time I was already engaged to Anne, and we were about to get married. And I was wondering if she will still marry me. And so we got married, and my third job, I was with RCA Computer Systems, which lost out to IBM in the marketplace when IBM announced IBM 370. So, I was philosophical. Was it me who was getting laid off, or was it market conditions? And I went back and forth. My friends were not being laid off. Maybe it's me. But at the same time, I said, there was nothing I did wrong every time I got laid off. I was doing really well. So philosophically, I believe, told myself, it had to do with the marketplace and the economy rather than me. But the third layoff was the best thing that happened to me. I moved, to California, to what became Silicon Valley, and I spent last now 54 years in Silicon Valley. So the layoff was, in a way, impetus that moved, made me move.
So that third loss and moving to California, is that what made you determine and realize that, hey, this is the place and I need to start a company?
Yeah. So if you read the book, I make a point that it became very clear to me that when you have a job, you have put your life, your destiny in somebody else's hand. You have no control over what will happen to you at the job, no matter how good your performance is. And I told myself that nobody will ever lay me off ever again. So after my third layoff, I was always interviewing. I always had a job offer in my pocket, and I was going to be ready to move on if there was any trouble. But after a few years, I became comfortable, and then I started to say, why am I working for somebody else? I am very good at what I do, and there's a chapter in the book I talked about one of the person who worked for me left to start a company. I have his name, David Jackson. Somebody who worked for me became an entrepreneur. And I could not sleep after that one. Why am I a lifer at job, working for somebody else. When David Jackson, who worked for me, had the courage to leave his job and go become an entrepreneur. And from there, being totally destabilized as an individual to me becoming an entrepreneur was a very short distance. I had to just, to try my hand.
So in the first startup, you're excellent. You write about how the company was in crisis when they put you in as a CEO. And you actually took that challenge and turned it around and made it a success. Now, is the initial experience of and determination of being laid off help you with that, or was this a totally new experience?
So in our startup, there were three founders, me, Dr. Inder Mohan Singh, and Dr. Naveen Jain, and the other two were PhD, and I was not. Dr. Inder Mohan Singh was an IIT Kharagpur graduate, Yale PhD in Doon School. He was the CEO. I was a VP of engineering, the technical brain behind the company. And Naveen was a software wizard. Inder turned out to be, he was from a rich family in India, zamindars, and servants. He was not used to doing any work with his hands, 9 to 5 type of person. As a founder, so that was, company got in trouble. He was also very unfocused. We had the product, there was a market, but nobody was buying our product. So when the board finally moved and fired him, I got promoted to become a CEO on an interim basis. And company didn't have much money left, 6, 7, 8 months worth of capital money left. I had to do, a drastic change, to, turn us around. And I don't know where it came from, but overnight I went from being an engineer to an entrepreneur to a CEO. Super hard priorities, from engineering mindset to marketing and sales mindset. And within 3 months, I turned the place around, and our stuff started to sell really well. We had the product, there was a market, and I started to do a better marketing job and better selling job, and product started to fly off the shelf.
And by the way, he took the company public, and after that, it was acquired by Novell.
After I took over the company in March of 1985, we were profitable by August of 1985, and we were doing really well, and we went public in early 1987, February of 87. So, it was very rapid, turnaround. And, everybody, including my board, investors, had written us off. And by the way, when somebody writes you off, when somebody doesn't believe you can do it, it's a very good situation because the pressure is off. They have very low expectations of you. Nobody is now looking over your shoulder. Nobody believes that you can do it anyway. So you end up being totally freed, totally liberated to do whatever you need to do, right? Because they already have written off. So when you do turn around, you think people's head turn and say, "What? He did that?" So it was a wonderful experience because all of a sudden everybody came running back, and so from when the company became profitable, hey, how do we take it public? From being written off to how do we take it public? Like that, right?
So just to take you a little bit down memory lane, you did attend the very first meeting that we had on December 22nd, 1992 for launching TiE. But you were not that active. Do you remember the time that I pursued you and called you and said, I need to see you? And you suggested there is a small Chinese restaurant near your workplace where we had lunch and talked more about TiE and your involvement in TiE.
Yeah, so I am focused on our business. It just turned around. It's profitable. Oh, this is 1992. I'm sorry. Yeah, I am very busy at Novell, super busy at Novell. Yeah, and Novell, is going through a change, and you know, eh, I was in line to become a CEO, and yeah, so I wasn't worried about anything beyond making it work, for myself, yeah, and for the company. So when TiE started, I was not focused on India. I was not focused on anything outside Novell. And yeah, you were very persuasive, but yeah, it took me a while, yeah, you know, a while, to get interested, right?
Yeah. But anyway, Noel's loss was TiE's gain. So now my next thing is, Kanwal, in your book, you write about your most satisfying experience in angel funding since you joined TiE was Exodus Communications. And you wrote about the data centers and how the internet was dependent on it. But even today, when you look at it, the data centers is what is all dependent on. Even for AI, the mode has changed, the style has changed. What, what do you think would have happened if Exodus has been around? It was already a gorilla in the data center building. Where would it be as a company?
Yeah. So before I go there, I do want to acknowledge and mention Harish Mehta. Around that time, 91, 92, Harish Mehta was changing me. He had come from India and he wanted Novell to partner with him, in India. And, eventually, he and I agreed, that maybe Novell should come to India and help start. And my engagement with Harish opened my eyes to India, the change which is happening, and that helped me get more active at TiE. I left Novell on January 1st, 1995. And there was nothing to do. I had been working 7 days a week for 27 years. And 7 days a week, I was a workaholic. And my wife tells me, you are in my space during the day. Go find something to do out there. And don't be home before 5 p.m., your usual time. So TiE had an office. So it was closed during the week, opened on the weekend. So I would take my newspapers, my magazines, and go to TiE office and read my paper and do things. And people will drop by. People will just drop by to, chat. And before I knew, I got very busy talking to entrepreneurs. Very, very busy talking to entrepreneurs. Through that process in 1995, I must have met hundreds of entrepreneurs, and I invested in 7 companies, and one of those 7 companies was Exodus Communication. And Exodus, this is now 1995. The internet is not quite happened yet, it's happening. The browser was just being announced around that time, and internet was like, maybe tens of thousands of people, maybe 500,000 people, I don't remember the number. And Chandrasekhar, the founder of TiE, founder of Exodus, came to see me, and he says, the world is about to change, internet is happening, everybody's getting on the internet, and pretty soon businesses will have to get on the internet. And somebody's going to have to provide them the services that they need, especially the connectivity. Internet for the consumer was like $20 a month, and he thinks he could charge $10,000 a month from the businesses to provide them the internet services. And his idea that customers are on the internet, the businesses will come on the internet appealed to me. And so I did help him. I did invest. I did help him raise the money. And Exodus took off like a rocket. Internet was happening very rapidly, and they needed the places to host servers and provide connectivity, and HDS was doing that one. At one time, half the traffic of internet was going through HDS data centers. Yeah, and you talk about AI, same thing sort of happened with AI. But this time, the businesses are building data centers. Last time, an entrepreneur was doing it.
So, Kanwal, is TiE today similar or same as the TiE we launched 33 years ago?
Well, so let me tell you my perspective on TiE. TiE to me was a near spiritual experience. I had been very focused on business. I had very focused on succeeding, almost cutthroat in competition. And totally disengaged from India, I was very focused on my life. And here was a transition to a non-profit, where you are not focused on profits, you're not focused on things. And all of a sudden, I was feeling the energy. So it was a very spiritual experience. And all of a sudden, Subhash Patel and a few other people, we started to talk about the notion of why is India behind everybody else? Why, is everybody else taking off and India is not? And that's when we started to talk about economic freedom, the entrepreneurship. So there was this, experience, that brought us together. I think TiE was very lucky to have people like Professor C.T. Prahlad, engaged with us. C.T. Prahlad, was also, in the same spirit. He talked about building, this economic movement which is values-driven, not people-driven, not personality-driven. And so he wrote that famous paper, The House of TiE, around that time. And so it was an idea, whose time had come. And I had the time and energy, so did Subhash. And so we put our heart and soul into it. And by the way, we did not set out to build a global organization. We were going to build a local network in Silicon Valley. The people like Deshpande, saw what we were doing. He said, why don't we build a chapter in Boston? People like Harish Bhai and Saurabh Srivastava say, hey, if we want to do this thing in India. There were 12 chapters formed, totally independent entities. The first 12 chapters of TiE were totally independent entities. We gave them our logo, we gave them our bylaws, and we provided some help. It was again, in 2001, 2002, somebody suggested, we need to have a central organization, a TiE Global, so to speak. So TiE Global was conceived as a lightweight entity, activities in the chapters, and TiE Global will manage the branding, the quality control, and provide the inter-chapter networking. And so TiE architecture done backwards, the chapters that formed before 12 chapters, before the TiE Global came into being. And that has turned out to be a very good thing because all the activities are in chapters. That's where the energy is. And the role of the TiE Global is to make sure that everybody stays true to the TiE values, and then through TiE Global Summit and TiE Retreat, provide the inter-chapter networking, right?
So earlier you mentioned that we came to India because India was being left behind and we needed to be here. That time the shift was towards IT. Today the shift is towards AI. And AI is, my personal feeling is that India is still being left behind. Do you think we as NRIs are engaged enough with the private sector and the government in India today? And is the private sector and the government in India today willing to engage more with us so that we can speed up the growth of India? It's sad to see that we only have one company in the top 100 by market cap in the world today. We need more, way more than that. Because the largest market, one of the largest market of consumers is here.
Yeah, you know, I have a different perspective. India of today is different than India when we came here in 98, 99. You know, India is the fastest growing economy in the world, is the fourth largest economy in the world now. Yeah, I don't think we should worry about being left behind. I don't think India was left behind during the internet age. India is a leader in that world. I don't think it's going to be left behind in the AI age. Indians are among the smartest people in the world. My personal experience is we are the smartest people in the world. And we had a bad fortune of being socialist, which held our people back. But we have put socialism behind us. Socialism is behind us since 91. We are being entrepreneurial powerhouse now. 200,000 entrepreneurs, going on to million, going on to 10 million within the next 20 years. The problem in India is the bureaucrats. We were British left, but they left the bureaucracy behind. The British bureaucracy was here to manage and control us. Our bureaucracy is here to manage and control us. I wish we have a little bit more mindset of trust in our people, our entrepreneurs, rather than controlling them, managing them. India needs to loosen up a little bit more. It's hard to do business in India, even now, even though things are a lot better, 10 times better than they were before. They are very hard to do business in India. So India will move once we decide to do one more change like we did in 1991. No license, no permit, no quota, and if you do back, GST, wonderful idea, really botched. The implementation got botched. It's so complex, and it's ever changing. New rules, new regulations on a daily basis. GST was supposed to simplify everything, one tax nationwide, cut it up custom duties, and it is better than before, but it could be 10 times better. If you have one rate nationwide, one tier, anything you do, you pay. It's a sales tax, consumption tax. Why something has to be 29%, something has to be 18%, something has to be this percent. Why if you have parathas, there's one price. When you have rotis, you have one price. It's a bureaucrat's delight, a businessman's nightmare.
So, Kanwal, in your book, you have written that India should build strong ties with the USA. And I'm sure that was written before the current administration in the current situation. Do you still feel India should build strong relations with the USA, or should they become strong on their own?
Well, India should eventually be on its own, right? India should eventually, too large a country to be dependent upon somebody else. If you look at India and China are the two experiments taking place in the world. Started around the same time, in 1947, 1949 for China. One chose to be a democracy, one chose to be a communist top-down state. Bottoms up, messy, inefficient, free India. Top-down, tidy, disciplined China. And China is racing ahead. India is, not too far behind, but behind. India's misfortune turned out to be, even though we are a democracy, we chose socialism rather than trust the markets and the entrepreneurs. India was way ahead of China in 1947. India was net to net with China. So China became more market-oriented sooner than us. But my sense is that long-term, India will emerge. We'll be definitely top three, China, India, and the US. we need U.S. help short term. We need to set up and China is 5 times as powerful as we are right now. And U.S. needs India as much as India needs U.S. So even though the current dispensation in U.S. is, I'll use the word stupid. Because U.S. is the one who enabled India to become a part of the nuclear club, right? U.S. has invested so heavily in us. The mutual benefits have been phenomenal. Both sides have really benefited, with the partnership. But so the current dispensation is somewhat stupid in the U.S. But that will not last. That will not last very long. We should look past that. And we need the partnership for the next 15, 20 years before we are strong enough to be on our own.
Is there anything you want to add today about the book? And
so the book, is my life's journey. I try to explain in the book a person like me, a very ordinary Indian, lower middle class Indian from Kanpur, who went to Hindi medium school, got lucky and got into IIT, and from there, got launched into this world stage. But I count the things that prepared me. We talked about how I became CEO. I was a very good budgeter. When I was only 20 years old, I was managing the household budget. So there are things like that I have in the book. Life's lessons that I learned that really prepared me, to become the person I became at the end. So the book is an easy read. It's not a big business book. It's a very much fun read. I was talking to PG Gupta. He told me at breakfast this morning that he put out the book yesterday, and he started to read it, and he couldn't put it down. So he had to finish reading the book last night. And he said it was really, really fun to read. And that I hear from everybody who reads the book, that is an easy read, it's fun to read, and it's very, very educational.
so I have known Kanwal over 33 years. And in my very humble opinion, I think what makes him great, and the reason why I have a lot of respect for him, that he, as far as I know, more than any other successful entrepreneur, has spent more time and energy to make others, lift others up and be as good or better than what he has done. So with that, I will tell you also that to know him better, even after 33 years, is the book that showed me more about him than all these 33 years. So if you guys get a chance, please get one of this, read it, and it will teach you a lot about life, entrepreneurship, and determination.
By the way, book is available for sale someplace in the back where the stalls are. And I will be signing the books in the hall there someplace, I'm told. So if you want a signed copy of the book, you have to go back and buy back there and bring it up. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Patel. Thank you, Mr. Rekhi. I think while listening to Mr. Rekhi here on stage, even though this conversation was about one book launch, I think one can easily observe that the knowledge that Mr. Rekhi holds is like a library in itself. Thank you so much, sir, for your generosity in sharing that knowledge, not only on this stage, but in every stage and in life in general, and in inspiring more and more entrepreneurs. And thank you, Mr. Patel, for bringing out all the aspects of this conversation and making it more interesting.